Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's program with Vanessa Riley and Alina Rubin. This is our 10th year of Galena Lit Fest here at the Galena Public Library in Illinois, and we're really excited to see all of you here. I'm just going to go over some housekeeping real quick, and then we'll get started. So, this program is being recorded. It'll be posted to the Galena Public Library YouTube channel in the next few days. It's also going to be being live streamed to Facebook, just so you know. Any questions can be typed into the chat window and will be answered towards the end of the program. If you have more than one person at your screen or device, please just let me know in the chat window so that I can keep track of proper attendance numbers. I really appreciate that. And I also want to thank the Friends of the Galena Public Library for funding LitFest every year so that we can bring in amazing authors like those I'm just about to introduce. So, tonight we have Vanessa Riley, who is an award-winning author of more than 20 books, which encompass historical fiction, historical romance, and historical mystery. Her novels showcase the hidden histories of Black women and women of color, emphasizing strong sisterhoods and dazzling multicultural communities, and have been praised by the AAMBC, Washington Post, New York Times, Entertainment Weekly, NPR, Publishers Weekly, Essence Magazine, and many others. She holds a doctorate in mechanical engineering from Stanford University and several other degrees from Stanford and Penn State University. And she is joined in conversation by Alina Rubin, who is an IT professional and a mom who during the pandemic used her time and energy on the computer to write her first book, An Adventure of a 19th Century Woman Surgeon. Writing became her passion, and her characters took on a journey beyond her wildest dreams. Her debut novel, A Girl with a Knife, has won the Illinois Author Project Award of 2022. So I'm going to turn this right over to them. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Vanessa, I think the first question when I heard your resume, and I think many people like, okay, Stanford, mechanical engineering, doctorate in mechanical engineering. How did that
How
happen?
did this
Now you're
happen?
writing historical fiction.
First of all, that is first I have to give you props. But during the IT, the pandemic, you wrote a book. I mean,
Yeah.
that's to me, I'm like right here, girl. Um, the answer to all questions are usually rooted in my mother. So when I was in high school, I was gifted at writing, I was gifted in science.
Mhm.
I was like captain of the science nerd team. I'm writing articles for the school newspaper. I'm also winning like the governor's awards for essays and things like that. So I'm like really the kid that could we go either direction.
Mhm.
And my mom's like, I know you like to write, and I know you're good at math, but baby, you always need to pay your bills.
Yes.
And, at that time, people that look like me, it's a once in a lifetime you get the opportunity to write for a traditional publisher. It's not something one makes necessarily a career. It doesn't look like someone can make a career. This is before indie publishing. This is before, you know, uh, I would say a more intentional look at trying to tell all stories.
Mhm.
So I went the math route. She was absolutely right. um, I worked for NASA. I worked for General Motors. There's a brand of Cadillac that I made quiet. So you can thank me, or your grandparents can thank me, who's ever riding around in Cadillacs. And but being an engineer, one of the things that we are always taught to do is look at the hows and the whys of a situation. You know, how is a system built? Why would it be built this way? You know, uh, you start questioning things, and for me, I bring that into my fiction. So I want to understand how the world works. I often like, how does a dollar circulate, or a pound, or whatever the monetary unit is? How does it circulate? How do people get money? How do they make money? Why would they do certain things? And when you look at it from that perspective, you get a deeper understanding of that person's world. I think you get a truer picture of how they're living, And I credit all of that, to my engineering prowess, because I don't think I would normally ask those kind of questions. And so, for me, it's like, if I tell you some process, just know that's like a 10th or a fifth of the research I've done on certain processes, because I want, I am trying to embody the character I'm writing. So I want to understand, like they understood how certain things would work. And I want to give you the most authentic experience, because I realize I'm bringing you history that you probably never heard of. It probably wasn't in your history books, but it happened, and I want to give you the best that I can. So I think the engineering world works. I think it's our superpower. So, Alina, you got superpowers because you're a techie background. And I just bring it to fiction.
Mhm. And so you put spotlight on real women like Dorothy Kirwan Thomas in Island Queen, but you also
Mhm.
have fictional protagonists like Lady Worthington in your mysteries.
Yes.
So how is it different to write a real person out of history versus somebody who you just made up?
Well, for whenever I'm very fortunate to find a woman like a Dorothy Kirwan Thomas, and I can reliably trace her life from cradle to grave and know what she's done and what she lived through, I want to try and bring that woman back to you. I mean, Dorothy Kirwan Thomas for Island Queen should literally be in our history books because of the things that this woman did.
Mhm.
She's absolutely amazing. And the fact that we don't know her, that we don't know that she championed women's rights and protected women who owned property in Guyana, uh, it's something that we should always do. We should always know about. And if I can find that amount of information, then I can. Oh, hold on. Never mind. People off to the side handed me stuff. I thought they were asking a different question. Never mind. All right. But if I can do that, that's a historical fiction, and I'm going to take you back to their world. I'm going to give you what was going on. I particularly want to know what the world is happening, because the world was actually a lot smaller. We knew what was happening in England because of the way soldiers coming into the islands, the way newspapers, and how just information went from coast to coast, over the seas. So the world's smaller, we're affected. If there is a war happening, there's probably going to be limitations of some sort of importation of goods. There could be embargoes where there's no ships actually coming through. And so how does that affect people? I want to know what's going on. If there's wars or rebellions, young men or young women may have to sacrifice to fight in these wars. I want to know all of that. But unfortunately, for peoples of color, it gets real difficult to find things. For System of the Warrior, which is the two women who shaped the Haitian Revolution, translate French. So all that lovely, high school French. I took 4 years, and I was like, "Woo, that was a mistake. I really should have took Spanish." Because I was like, "I'm never going to use this." Well, I guess what? I did use it, and Thomas Matteo has one of the most accurate or most recent versions of the history of the Haitian Revolution, because he wrote it 10 years after the revolution. He actually interviewed some of the principals who were still alive. So it's the freshest. You had to translate French. So that's why you get little vignettes in that book about a bleach shortage, or that they liked ice cream. And they were like, if you're going to such a place, bring back some salt, because I want to you get these little nuggets you wouldn't necessarily find about these people. It humanizes them in a way that you don't get to see. Um, for my romances, it's usually a situational thing. For many of the beginning, it was there are there's a population of between 10 to 20,000 free blacks living in London during the time of Jane Austen. Jane Austen, the last book, Sanditon, the wealthiest woman in the book is a woman from the islands, Miss Lamb. Miss Lamb is based on a real person. There was a real Mr. Darcy. Her sister and her actually stayed in a type of development that she writes about in Sanditon, about the beachfront development in Bath and these sorts of things. She is a chronicler of what is happening in the world, and she's bringing you into this fictional spaces, protecting the innocent, whatever, and creating these stories. So when I write my romances, initially it was for visibility. I want to show you these real lives of people and how people are overcoming racial issues or monetary issues or faith issues, and are able to find that place where they are better individuals together than they are apart. I like those types of journeys. And then when we get to Lady Worthington, I have now this wealth of extra information and in some strange and random things, right? So I've been to London a couple of times, and I always take these crazy tours. And you start saying, somebody could be killed if they get pushed off this balcony over here in Drury Lane. What would that look like? Um, and this is, once again, we all answers go back to my mom. My mom and I used to watch Murder, She Wrote faithfully. That was our jam. And I was of the opinion that Jessica Fletcher was a serial killer. I mean, how do you go someplace and somebody always dies?
You're right.
How can you just step out your house and this neighbor who's got good reasons to get bumped off gets bumped off and you didn't do it?
Yeah.
You're right. So I want to bring these random stories that won't quite fit a romance. And once again, I don't have the cradle to grave information, so I can't bring these people's lives back, but I can touch on them in ways. Like for right now, we're in 1806 London for the series, and that's Murder in Westminster, Murder in Drury Lane, and coming in September, Murder in Berkeley Square. I'm showing you the early fight of abolition that's happening in Parliament. This is a time frame where the entire world is at a standstill because Haiti's free. Kind of like, we were good with y'all getting your freedom, but now y'all want to run countries? And so the good people of London have to be convinced to continue with their better angels and actually abolish enslavement and the transport of slaves. And so that fight is hilarious. People who you think are good in history, some people are maligned in history, but that's a backdrop of this woman who, wherever she goes, somebody ends up getting killed, and she uses her skills and her community and her friends and her family, her found family, to solve the mystery. That's Lady Worthing. So you get all these wonderful different aspects of history, which I completely love. For those that are concerned, I almost minored in world history in college. I only needed 2 more classes. I decided to get another master's in mechanical engineering instead. So my bad. Should have went that other route. But so I hope that answers your question.
Yes. Okay, so can we go to like beginning of your writing journey? So you were writing your first book. What was writing and publishing it like, and what made you want to do it?
I was writing a book called Madeline's Protector. And once again, I tell everybody, if you're into writing, please continue to read what people are writing and getting published right now. I was still reading the old stuff, right? So my worldview of what happened and how people are telling stories was very old. And I made so many mistakes with Madeline's Protector. I instead of having a critique group, I got my girlfriends to read it. Good. No, it was not good. Oh, you're gonna set the world on fire. No. You're gonna have to smother them little minuscule flames. It was not good. It was not good. But that was in my head. It was great. And you need your support system because you need your people telling you that. And I go off, and I am a talker, as you can tell. And I talk my way into getting a publisher, a big publisher, to want to see the whole manuscript. But they only dealt with agented authors. So they called up an agent and said, "Hey, we want to see Vanessa Riley's book, blah, 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 blah." And this agent calls me, and I'm like, "Ooh, it's gonna be so great. It's gonna be great." You don't hear nothing. And I inquire, and this agent is like, "No, I need a little bit more work. This is not going to work. Da, 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 da. And then I ask again, well, tell me what I can work on, because I'm eager beaver, and that's when it kind of went south, and these things of like, you'll never write, you need a co-author, nobody wants, you're good with these ideas, but you can't deliver on the story kind of thing. That was new, and then it was like, excuse me, do you understand who I am? I have like so many random degrees, and you're telling me I can't figure this out? Really? So that one book, and I do not do this at home, boys and girls, I'll tell you right now, I rewrote that book 125 times because I am an engineer. So one time we're working on setting, one time we're working on dialogue, one time we're deepening POV, another time we're working, scene breaks. Just every iteration you could think of, I am working this. And so I am pushing in the envelope, and that book gets traditionally published. But it wasn't the kind of book, like, I iterated it to death to get it over the hurdle, because I had to prove to that woman that I could write and people would like this book and whatnot. Now, getting mad is a great excuse to get motivated, but this is a long game. And you have to know your voice. You have to, or at least allow yourself to learn your voice. And that wasn't really my voice. I remember I told you I was reading the old stuff. I had to conform to the new stuff. And in that being conformed space, I changed from a first person writer, first person POV, to a third person distant POV. And it took a lot of iterations to get third person close. So that was a couple books. And then it morphed into first person past tense. And then now it depends. It could be first person present tense, first person past, depending upon how the story needs to be told and whose story it is. And now I'm in my most authentic voice, but it took a minute to get there. And it took learning how to trust that I'm telling a story the right way. And right, I put that in quotes, boys and girls, because it's up to you how you want to tell the story so that your readers are moved, your readers learn something, your readers fall in love with these characters. Your readers are sitting on the edge of their seats, and they want to understand, how this world is working for these people. That takes a minute. And so my first book was traditionally published. Books 2 through 15 or 16 were independently published. After book 1, I got an agent. And it was a wonderful agency. This is the part where people have to really want it, because the craft was no longer an issue. The stories were engaging, but they were brown. They had brown heroines and brown heroes. And the publishing world did not believe at that moment in time that was stories people wanted to see. Now, you would think that's the craziest thing you ever heard of, because there's a lot of brown people, out there that read. And then, like, I've read over 10,000 books written by people who don't look like me. Are you trying to tell me there's folks out here who don't want to just experience something else written from a different perspective than what they look like in the mirror? To me, this was the backwardest thing I've ever heard. But that's when independent publishing was coming along. So it's like, okay. And the thing is, I want everybody to be clear. You're not on a thing. Every publishing house is a business. If they don't believe they're going to make money, there is no reason for them to buy your book. This is not charity. This is a business. And the problem is, if you accept a deal when you know in your heart that they don't know how to market your book, that they don't know how to, they're not even really that into you. Unfortunately, sometimes that happens. They're not really that into you. that's the worst mistake, because you see what's going to happen is your book's going to come out and you're all excited, but you're not getting any marketing support. You're not getting any PR support. It gets ignored. And that failure is not the publisher's fault. That's you. That's you, baby. That's all on you. Or at least it feels like that. And that's the story they're going to stick with because they gave you a shot. They ain't say nothing about trying to get your book into any bookstore. They ain't say anything about trying to, get it reviewed. It's on you. So when those, some of the best rejections I've ever had in my life were, oh, we love her voice. Does she have anything else? We love this story, but we don't know how to market it. She's not gonna fit with the rest of the group of stories that are coming out. I'm writing Regencies, or it's, basically extended Regencies, 1750s to 1830s. I was it. Now the thing is, I'm not the first Black woman to write in this era, but I'm one of the first to write with actual Black characters in this era. The Blackamoors existed, once again, I told you, 15 to 20,000 free in this space, primarily in the tradesman space. And they're the prime opportunity if you're a second or third son with no cash. You dip in this class, you keep it moving. People sending their mixed race daughters and sons for education to London and Scotland, like the Dollar Academy, the Inverness Academies. These are places where free Blacks, mixed race, would go for higher levels of education. They're sent there by their families in the islands. And then they go to London for marriage, because everybody's Miss Bennett when it comes to marriage. They all want their peoples to marry nicely and things like this. So these are true stories that happen. Nobody's writing them. I'm the only one, and I don't mix with the catalog well, at least in their perception. That is their right. And I tell you, everybody, you do not want a publisher who's not behind you. But you know who can be behind you? You can be behind you. You can be an independent person, and you can hustle, and you can get the word out. And hustling and getting the word out, like the very first one I put out was called The Bargain. The 2 weeks, it was like 1,000 sold. And I had burned up my engineering budget mind, had set a budget for the cover and the editing, forgot about this whole advertising thing, right? But just putting the cover up, because it was so different, that blew up. And like I said, the rest is history. So books, 15 or 16, I start getting these emails and people tagging in my DMs from different publishers saying, hey, Vanessa, we see what you're doing there. We think we know how to advertise you. We think we know how to do this. And I'm like, who are you? And how did you get my number? But it was a 6-month courtship with Entangled, part of Macmillan, and this wonderful editor named Erin, who'd read my indie work and loved it. And we started this, and this was an amazing thing. And this series, which was, 3 women, I had seen a newspaper clipping from, I think it was 1803 London Morning Post, where a woman is looking for a husband. Now we have this picture that Regency women are just sitting around and their mamas are doing the matching.
Mm-hmm.
No. These women are actually putting newspaper clippings saying, woman of esteem looking for man of such and such situation, object matrimony. If you're interested, please write. And so they would write back, and then they would meet at a coffee house, probably a couple more meetings. And if they liked each other enough, or they felt it could work, they got married. So I'm like, if you are 3 women who don't fit the mold, you're not going to necessarily be invited to Almax or the other little balls. What are you going to do? You're going to put an ad in the paper. So I was like, advertise what you love. That was my first tradition, back to traditional publishing. And these books are getting written up in Washington Post, Entertainment Weekly. We started a fun ride. Then I got a new agent, and this is Sarah Younger at the Nancy Yost Literary Agency, and we start the ground running, because publishing is like, you know what? She showed us that this could work out. Let's try some things. And so I get this wonderful deal with Kensington. It's called, as I looked back here, think 3 Men and a Baby meets First Wives Club. So we have a Duke, the lady and the baby, an Earl, the girl and a toddler, a Duke, a spy, an artist, and lie. So this whole concept is fish out of water men with children and these women who are like widows or who've been wrongfully taken from their kids. And the secret society is trying to put them back in. And the very first book releases during the pandemic. And I'm like, oh crap, I've done messed this up. But it was wonderful. People found the book, thought the title was crazy, and they started getting it and talking about it. And now this book is translated into French. It's in, I think, Russian, Portuguese, and there's a couple others. But it's to me, it's hilarious. And it shows that if you write something and you write it with your heart, you write it well, there's an audience for every story. And so people are, loving this. And then you got to have still these good friends. So I tell you, don't let the friends critique you, but you need to have them in your life.
Yes.
Because I was going to the Historical Novel Society. And we do panels because I'm bringing, remember, inside of every time you get into one of my romances, there was history. There was women who've done something exciting or interesting, or it's a time period. I'm bringing you that history, sneaking it in, so you don't even notice you're learning something while you're reading these books, but I sneak it in, right? So I'm on a panel and they are doing you can meet with an editor, but you got to pay $25. I was like, I done paid like $400 to get to the conference. And then I'm paying like $1,500 for the hotel room. Don't mention food and transportation. And you still want another 20, or I think it was 20, another $20. $20. I was like, no, this is not happening. Really, I was saying, look, guys, this has been a rodeo. These editors are coming in looking for historical fiction. I've written romance, although I have stories I would love to tell. They're gonna just say, no, why are we gonna do this? And I have a good friend, name is Denny S. Bryce. She was like, Vanessa, you gotta do it. Pay the $20. Okay, whatever. So I paid the $20. And then I'm like, did I get serious? I'm like, well, wait a minute. Let's come up with an idea that the editors would like. So I'm thinking Island Queen, right? Dorothy's story. But I don't tell it like I would do it. I'm saying, what would publishing want? So I get there and I'm meeting with Rachel Kahn. She's with William Morrow. And I said, I have a story of Prince William and his mistress, his Caribbean mistress. And she was like, we've heard enough about him. Okay, got another angle on this. What about the two Dorothys? So we've got the Dorothy Bland in England and Dorothy Kerwin Thomas in the Caribbean. She's like, no, we heard enough about her. So now I know I've blown it, right? This is right off the bat in this pitch. And I was like, I spent $20 for this. And she's like, tell me about this Dorothy Kerwin person. I've never heard of her. And so I tell her the story about this woman who was born in enslavement, literally saves money, buys her freedom, buys the freedom of her family, goes on to build businesses across the Caribbean, saves generational wealth for women in the colony of Demerara. Oh, and by the way, she has an affair with the hot prince, the sailor prince, future King William IV. You interested in that? And I'm ready to get up. She's like, yes, I'll buy it. She bought it at the table.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
She bought it at the table.
Good use of $40.
$20. And I'm scared now. I was like, what the heck did I say? I'm like trying, like getting a thank you. I'm calling my agent, Sarah, I don't know what I just did, but I sold this. And working with Rachel is amazing. The story, it is a beautiful story. It's a different look. We in America are very familiar with how enslavement went about. Here in the Caribbean, it's very different. Part of it is because there's so many different colonizers. If you're French, you have different rules than if you were English, if you were Portuguese, if you were Dutch. And then if you're a combination, oh, good Lord, it's a hot mess on who and what they're following and whatnot. The climate changes things. It's just so many different things. And then there's these stories of people overcoming their situation and going on to do really great things for themselves, for their families, for their people that have been ignored, particularly when it's been women led. And so, I love writing historical fiction to bring those stories to you. It's part of my passion. But if I had listened to the no's that I just knew was in my head, I wouldn't be able to do that. I would be missing out on so many different things.
Mhm. I see somebody said that it's their favorite. Alan Queen is their favorite book.
Thank you. Thank you. Put my foot up in that one.
So, okay, I have a question. So you have multiple series, historical fiction and historical romance and historical mystery. How do you choose what's next to write?
Well, that's usually contract based. So,
Mhm.
so currently, what you guys should get in stored for. My editor is reading it as we speak. It's the next historical fiction, which tentatively is titled Black Lady Pirates. So you are going to see the Caribbean in the 1675s, which is a different world than what we all know and understand. Incredibly different. Piracy is legal in 1675. So that in itself should tell you everything you need to know about the crazies of the world. And so, that is currently, like I said, she's reading it. We'll see how she likes it. Don't even know when it's coming out, but that's the next historical fiction. In historical romance, you've got A Gamble at Midnight, which is coming out in about 19 days. So it comes out on the 21st.
Very good.
I love how they say it's my return to historical romance. I didn't go nowhere, man. I was just busy putting the contract. And then you're getting the third, Lady Worthing, in September. And this one, Murder in Berkeley Square, is my homage to And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Don't you love Murder for Christmas?
I just love Agatha Christie.
I know. So it's going to be that one. It was very cool. But you have to work within, so the premise, for those who don't know, And Then There Were None, there is, in the history of him, And Then There Were None is a little bit jacked, because the true rhyme, or the true name back in 1945, was 10 Little Inn Boys. Y'all fill in the blanks what you think N is. And this is based on a nursery rhyme they used to tell children for slave catching. Right. Interesting, right? So what does Vanessa do? Well, Vanessa brings in the story, or the chant that the enslaved would do before a rebellion. 10 little Grand Blancs. And so you have a house of men that have gathered together to talk about their regrets. It's an annual meeting. It's at Lord Duncan's house. And each one of these men have gotten a piece of this enslaved rebellion poem that dictates their death. And Lady Worthing and her cousin and Henderson are stuck there because of a snowstorm. So now they're all part of this thing that's happening, that's knocking off people one by one, based on this rhyme. Wow. And then there were none. So total fun.
So we create these characters, we love them, and then we kill them off and we cry. And then we laugh about it.
I will, a spoiler alert, the ones you like, they may get nearly killed, but they gonna stay. They're gonna stay. We're trying to get 30 books in that world. But the kind of ones you kind of sort of not like, or you kind of sort of know, they're fair game. It's fine. They're fair game.
So when I hear you, like, I'm thinking, so many books, so little time. I mean, it's little time for readers to catch up. But how many hours a day do you write?
I am never
write all these books.
for the past 2 years, this is the third year. For the past 3 years, I'm full time now. So I writing all the time. And I typically do 2 to 3 books a year. I'm not sure when they ever come out, but I write typically 2 to 3 books a year. My brain works like that, right? So you've got the engineer's discipline of let's sit down and get it done. Da, 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 da. Kid is now in college, and husband is now retired, so he's back in the picture again. That does take away some. No, I'm just kidding. No, he's amazing, and but yeah, but this is what I do. So I write, and I'm having a ball, and I love for readers to just enjoy these books. I put a lot into them, so I hope they're fun.
Yeah, wonderful. Um, but do you write like one book? Is it one at a time, or is you like working on one in the morning and a different one in the afternoon?
Typically, it's one at a time.
Okay.
Because it's when you're in these characters,
Yeah.
and I think it would be to me. So I know some who can, but to me, it would be confusing of the motivations and who these characters are. So to me, I got to get in there and just write that book. And now I could probably edit because I do that all the time, editing a book. But getting that book written, I got to be in their heads. So I can only probably just during the writing time, it's only that one thing. But you have to edit, and then once again, you never know when things are going to copy edit, so you may have to multitask at different times.
Mm-hmm.
But when I try and get that initial story out, I only want to be working on that one thing.
And of course, there's significant or probably tons of research. So tell us about where you and how you do all that research.
First of all, I have a lot of old books. I don't know if you guys can see that. So I've got lots and lots of books on the history, particularly of the islands and London during these time frames. So there are things on customs, locale. I love maps. If I ever mention a place, it's typically a real place. So it's very rare for me to just invent something, but the street is usually, even if I have to invent something, the street's real. Because I want to understand how long does it actually take, because I've read some things, and they're going from Westminster to Cheapside, and they're these, not in a carriage, buddy, not in a carriage. It's gonna take a minute. And sometimes that's the fun of how long you're stuck in a carriage when you're going someplace that could add to the tension, the drama, et cetera, et cetera. So my husband freaked out when he started seeing all the books on poison and things like that coming in.
My husband is a chemist, so I have to ask him like how to poison somebody.
Exactly. And then once again, you switch it back to the 1800s. So it's like, how you could kill somebody. How they gonna catch it? They don't have the blood analysis.
True.
They don't, so you've got to really, work. We work very hard. I'm sorry. When you knock people off in the 1800s, you work very hard, because it can't be so obvious that everybody's like, he did it.
Yeah.
But it's got to be solvable, because they can't, or you get to that point where I confess, I did it.
So you were a historical consultant and a consultant producer on a reimaging of the Jane Austen Sense and Sensibility. So tell us what it's like to be on a movie set.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so everybody has to do that at least once. Everybody has to do that at least once.
I sign up. I'll do it.
It is so amazing. So here's the funny part. So I the senior vice president of Hallmark, I'd known for about 2 years, and she had mentioned this about 2 years ago, that she was going to be trying to do Sense and Sensibility. And in my head, Sense and Sensibility on Hallmark Channel, a period piece, for real. It's not gonna be like, Sense and Sensibility and a snowman or something. Some adaptation or something, that's actually a true adaptation. I was like, okay, girl, whatever. If you need anything, you call me. Well, 2 years later, she took me up on that. And for me, this was one of the first times they were doing a full on period piece, and at the same time they're doing it. They're all the characters are biracial, or they are black, or they're white. How does this world look, and how do you get to this world? Because whenever you add color to anything, people need to people ask these questions. Well, how does this look? I've never seen it in my history books. How do you get there?
Mhm.
So part of the fun was using everything to tell the full story. So the relationships of, like, in the Sense and Sensibility book, Fanny, Edward, and the younger brother, they're all whole siblings. In our version, based on the casting, they have to be step siblings. Edward and Robert are brothers from a prior marriage. Fanny is Mrs. Farrar's daughter. It's a blended family because of the casting. And so part of my expertise was, how do we make this world look right based on who we are choosing to cast? And so that changes relationships in the script, which changes pieces of the script. Um, on the walls, every one of these stately manors has ancestor portraits and things like that. You go to any of these homes in London, you're going to see that. Well, what does these families that are black, that are mixed race, white, what are they going to have on the walls? And the beautiful Bulgarian set designers were making up stuff. They were just taking characters, and I was like, we don't have to make up stuff. Here's real characters. Here's real pictures. So you're going, if you look carefully, you will see images of black generals. You will see images of wealthy aristocratic folk. You're going to see businessmen on some of the walls. And so you literally get this vision of these actors. This could be their parents or their grandparents that are in these ancestral walls, because each one of these people had lives that are married in London society, that are part of the fabric. But we don't look at them. We look at these other things, and it's like all of it matters. And so, I had fun. I put black cake on one of the because that was in London. It was called fruitcake.
Oh.
Go to Trinidad, it's gonna be buried in the ground for about 6 months with my grandma, the way she makes it. You know, we got to have fun.
Mhm.
And then just the colors, like every hairdo, I found paintings of the time frame. So the braids that you saw, that is period accurate. The ornamentations. Now, did we find as much ornamentation? No, because if Beyonce's hairdresser wants to do something, I'm gonna let her do it, because that's Beyonce's hairdresser. My goal is not to restrict people from their own imagination and creativities. I
Mhm.
just want to say these are the rules. So if we're going to break a rule, we know why we're going to break a rule.
Mhm.
It's at one point there's a scene where um Edward and not Marianne, the other sister, Eleanor. Edward and Eleanor are in a room playing chess, and they're by themselves. And they wanted him to give him a different look, to take his waistcoat off. And apparently, I come running across the set. And I'm like, no, you can't do that. That's too comfortable. That's foreplay. Stop it. Stop. And he would never be that comfortable. And
Mhm.
honestly, two single people during that time frame, there would be a third person in the room, but they didn't want that. But he's
Mhm.
definitely not stripping down to his shirt. Yeah, no. We made the convention that we're going to have bonnets, right? So, in Bridgerton, bonnets are not a thing. That's part of their world, that they break the convention. We had
Mhm.
bonnets, but the way that Kim and Karasan worked together, Karasan was the designer. She is absolutely amazing. But they worked together so that the hat would be built in a way so you still saw all the beautiful intricacies of the hairstyle.
Mhm.
And that they would look practical. They wouldn't look, like crazy, and they're trying to walk someplace and it's like a crazy bond. Everything is intentional, and it was just so much fun. But I at some points they were starting to call me the Alexa Regency. So it was like, Vanessa, how do we hold our teacups? Vanessa, how do we hold our where's the forks and knives once we put them down? And one time I actually accidentally gave them the American version. I had to go running. Stop! That's the American fork position. No, the British. So I didn't realize I had a real job. I thought I was going for fun. And it turned out to be a real job, but I loved every single minute of it. And if you happen to catch it and you see the ballroom scene, I am the matriarch standing next to Bill Willoughby, looking at Marianne like, who is this?
Oh, so they let you be the
I
like an
did.
extra. Oh
It
wow.
was such an amazing experience. And here's a note: if you stand next to one of the main characters, you may get it. You may not get cut.
Mhm.
So we didn't know a long time I was gonna make the scene, but I made the scene. I made it.
Awesome. Now, will we see Island Queen or other books in the movies?
We there are some under option and some under discussion. So hopefully.
Maybe explain a little more what is under option. I don't think everybody knows.
So under option means a production house has taken a strong interest in the book. They will be working on trying to develop scripts, trying to, how they're going to do it, with whether it's going to be a movie, whether it's going to be a streamed series, etc. They work all of that things out. And then they're going to start pitching to networks to see if somebody, is interested in this pilot. So it's, there's still a lot of work, but some of my properties, some of my books are under option. Then some people are trying to get them under option. They're having those kind of conversations. So that's always it's fun, boys and girls, but it's a long process. It's not instant. So when you see these announcements, I mean, sometimes things can move fast, but when you see these a deadline announcements, those are sometimes things that have been in the works for a while. Get excited when you see casting announcements. That's the part to get excited for, because now we're moving. We are moving. Yeah, but everything is exciting, and I think there's, as an author, you have to understand the visual medium is completely different than the written word. You want the base of your story and your characters, you want that bits of integrity, but once again, just like with the costumers and the hair designers, you got to give them freedom. It's a different medium, and they know what work. I am not a television expert. They know what's work, so you're going to have to make some compromises or whatnot, or just let them have some freedom to imagine or reimagine what you've written. But my hope is that we start seeing some of these, because I think they'll be just amazing, and I cannot wait to see just how it is on screen, because I think it'll be fabulous.
Wonderful. Yeah, I've definitely be watching it if any of your books become movies. Now, I want to talk about the book that's coming out later this month, and I'm reading it now, A Gamble at Sunset.
Yeah.
So, and it's one of the first romances that I'm reading. Is it? Oh, yeah, look at that cover. And I know why, and now the cover makes sense to me. She loves to twirl, this girl, Georgina. And she also, and another thing about her, she loves to make ginger biscuits. And I read that you're an avid baker, and so I bet those biscuits that meant something to you, right?
They are delicious.
They're delicious. Yeah, I saw that you included a recipe in your book club. Now,
Yes.
there's another dessert you keep mentioning in the book, and it's a dessert I grew up with. It's kartoshka. Have you ever had it?
Love it, love it, love it, love it. So that recipe will be definitely in the Duke's book. So so the premise. Okay, let me get the premise. Oh,
I wish you were in the same room because I made it. This is the recipe I grew up.
you gotta mail it.
I'll send it to you for sure.
And girl, if you had a recipe, let me know, because I'm experimenting in the kitchen, but hook me up, because you're my readers. So every one of my romances has since a Duke the Lady Baby, they all have recipes. So Duke the Lady Baby, I think there's coconut bread. One of them has an ambrosia. We just throw in, and to me, food is fun. Okay, food is a love of the passion, and you can do so much with food. So the ginger biscuits is a running joke in the book. It's a
Yeah.
running joke because the hero sees everybody else enjoying the ginger biscuits. He never gets any.
Oh, never. I
No,
feel
no, no, no. No, he does get some.
okay.
He
I'm
gets some.
not gonna spoil it.
Yeah, he gets some. He gets some. He gets
He's
some.
like,
He
you
gets his
get
own ginger
every
biscuit.
Friday. Every
Yes,
Friday she's making, but not for Mark.
Mark will get his. He will get his ginger beer, and he'll get a batch all to himself.
Oh, good.
Yes.
I'm not there. I'm like 3/4 of it. That is
But
funny.
you see the funniness of
Yeah.
that, and
Yes.
so
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah,
And
with you see my off-brand humor is definitely in the romances. You get room for funny in the romances, so
I
I
guess
like that.
so. Yeah. I mean, I inserted it to be in the historical fiction. I just can't help it. Sometimes it gets edited out. Yeah.
Oh,
That's funny. Tell us more about it. I get so fascinated that it's that the Duke, he's descendant of Gannibal, and that's somebody I knew from like from history, because that was a godson of Peter the Great. How did he
exactly.
come up this? And he's
Exactly.
and I would think that means like his son would be Alexander Pushkin or something, because Alexander Pushkin was a great grandson of
He's
Gannibal.
the great grandson. So this
Yeah.
we backed it up a little bit because Gannibal is married twice. The first wife, I don't remember how many kids they have. The second wife, he has numbers of kids. So I figured one of them is the and they were. It's funny because when I was studying Queen Marie Louise Coppola Christa, when she gets to Italy, the rumor is they're always calling her the Black Princess from Russia.
Oh wow.
And so I was like, why are y'all saying this? But that's because he was so favored. Gannibal and his children, they started calling them Black princesses and stuff like this. So I was like, let's just make a little fun over here. But it is so much fun to bring out these histories that we all should know because we know Pushkin, right?
Mhm.
We don't know his history because it make more sense.
Mhm.
The guy who wrote the Three Musketeers, that's another line of things.
Yes.
But it's
Yeah, Alexander Dumas. Yes, he
yes,
has black ancestors. Yeah.
so it's to me though it's been story. And then I found out that Queen Elizabeth through some of are actually related to them.
Oh.
Yes.
Wow.
So yeah, so when they say they were mixed race, they kind of are.
Huh.
So
Awesome that he discovered all that.
it is, and so it's crazy. So and it's like, and just to bring in these little bits of history, to me is so exciting. And that's part of the fun because we should know this. The world is a lot more connected, and there are people in all instances. So when I'm writing, sometimes I there's a point where you stop looking at critics, but there are critics that want you to focus on, well, that wasn't, how did they say it? That wasn't the majority of people. Nobody said this was the majority of people.
Right.
I mean, I'd rather focus on the people that were actually good than the ones that weren't. Personally, I was like, just send me some pictures of your great grandma and grandpa out here fussing at folks trying to go to school. I'll write a story about them because that's the ones you want. Instead of the good people who realize that equality is a great trait, and being a warm human being something that matters. Those are the stories I want to write about. And so, it's my slant on history is wide. And the people who go against the norm are the ones everyone writes about. Why is there a lens that, there's a lens or sometimes a demand for Black historical writers to write about enslavement, to write about the most painful, darkest periods of history. And those pieces are important, but so are all the rest. So are all the people who fought and won in rebellions, who fought and won revolutions, who aided, who created things, who helped, save generational wealth. Those are important things that we also need to celebrate or need to know about. And no one people is monolithic. So you can't say everybody's like this because your grandparents was not nice. You can you've got to be able to have a wider lens. But unfortunately, when it comes to people of color, people want one lens sometimes. And that's why we need more books to show the different facets of human nature, that shows the diversity of thought, beliefs. Everyone needs a seat at the table. And we need to see that. We need to see it.
Well, I have a couple more questions, but I want to make sure that we let our audience ask questions. Do you have questions from our chat?
I don't see any questions at the moment.
Because we have answered everything.
Well, let's talk about what's next for you after these books come out. But you have something like else that you're thinking, like, I can write this book.
Yeah. So currently I am working on A Wager at Midnight. So there are three sisters of age in a Gamble at Sunset. And so you will see these people revisited throughout the story. But so for those who haven't read, there's an overarching story. So the Duke of Torrance, Jalil Charles, was madly in love with a woman back in St. Petersburg. But his father dies, and he has to go to London to fight for the dukedom. His father's a duke. His mother's a Russian princess, a Black Russian princess. And the woman he was dating is one of was involved with is one of the Wilcox daughters. She was there on assignment for her father. Her father is a very wealthy blackamoor man in the coal delivery industry, and it's actually based on a true story. Caesar Picton actually figured out that rich people don't want to touch coal, so he delivered coal in his drays and had system of drays throughout Mayfair and London, delivering coal, made a buttload of money, beautiful house, daughters married well. So I'm kind of borrowing from that history, creating the Wilcoxes. But he literally thought that, so Jalil literally thinks, I cannot bring this woman back to London if I'm trying to fight to prove that I should be the Duke, that my parents' marriage was legal. And he knows the reason they don't want him to be the Duke is because your mother's Black. You're Orthodox, which is so close to Catholic that they don't like that. Mm-hmm. And he just assumed bringing a Black wife would just be like kiss of death. Honestly, that's his head point at that moment in time. So he doesn't tell her why. He says he's got to go take care of some things for his father. He leaves, and what he doesn't know is that she was with child when he left. And she's got to figure things out. She doesn't know where he's at. And she ends up going back home. She feels disgraced. She has he's told, when Jalil finally figures all this out, that the child was stillborn. I'll give y'all a spoiler. There were children. You figured it out now?
I did.
Yeah, they're children. And one was stillborn.
Mm-hmm.
One was not.
Yeah.
Oh, everybody love a secret baby out there, don't y'all? So, time has passed, and Jalil's best friend, who married Catherine, because he told Catherine that, Duke was just playing with you. Jalil was playing with you. I loved you all along. Has married her. He's dying because he keeps taking these crazy bets. He creates a bet, he breaks his back. And on his deathbed, he confesses everything to Jalil. So he tells him, yes, I told her that you were just using her. You knocked her up, baby stillborn. And that's why she hates you. Oh, by the way, she's never gonna believe you that this is what happens because, I'm dead and you ain't got no proof, basically. And so Jalil walks out of that room wanting to actually kill the man who just died. But he knows that he's the only one. Oh, because so the best friend who marries Catherine is the love of Jalil's life, bankrupts them because he's a gambler and he is all these sorts of things. And so the fortune that the father has worked so hard to build is gone. They're living not quite in squalor, but they're not accepted by people. And everything that Catherine thought by marrying Tavis to restore the family's name, because she's brought this shame by having an out of wedlock, situation, doesn't get fixed. His family disowns him. He burns up all their money, and they're in dire straits when the Duke comes. And the Duke realizes he's got to fix the mess. That's really his fault, because if he'd just been honest, or if he had just given up on trying to have his heritage, he could have the woman that he loved. He would have a family. He would have all these different things if he had just told her the truth and had just said, you know what, whatever comes, we will fight this together. But he was afraid of that. But now he's more mature. He's happened and he wants to fix things. So he at least wants to try and fix things. He's still in love with Catherine, but he wants to fix things. And so he begins to buy up the debts that the husband Tavis has ruined, and he's getting to know the other members of the family. He's getting to know Georgina Wilcox, who's a calmer version of Catherine, logical and sweet. And then he's getting to know Scarlett, who's a STEM girly. She wants to solve all the problems of the world. She wants to be a doctor. She's literally sneaking out the house, dressing as a man to go to science conferences, basically science meetings and things like this. He gets to know them so well that one time, and the whole time Catherine wants him gone. She can't stand him. And she just knows that if I give him an inch, I'll be back in trouble. I will be in love with this man, and he will disappoint me. I'm never giving him an inch. So she gives him a hard time through book 1. Hard time. But her youngest sister, Lydia, she was very young when their father was old. And so he didn't really have time for her. But the Duke is here and he just treats her so well and so loving. And, Lydia is just like, if you can wait about 10, 15 years, I'll marry you. And the sad thing is, that's kind of true. If you wait, because, they marry him young over there. It's kind of sad. It's kind of sad. But he's like a big brother to Lydia, and this child eventually just has him wrapped around. And so he knows, even though Catherine wants him gone, if he needs to be there to fix all these problems. And he sees that Catherine is so absorbed in trying to get the business running that she's somewhat ignoring her sisters. And he says, I know them better than you. Matter of fact, I believe I can find them proper husbands before you can. And if I do, you need to marry me. And if I don't, I'll forgive all the debts and I'll walk away. And she says, I will never marry again. I'd rather be your mistress for a season. And he goes, okay, that'll work.
Hello, when she said that, I was like, what? What did she just say?
She spends the rest of the book trying to get out of this debt.
Yeah.
Trying to get out of this bed.
Not my moment.
So the series is gonna be it's hilarious. It's funny. They're calling it old school because I don't know how many got the zebra romances where they would show you that snippet at the beginning of the book that's somewhere in the book. Yeah, I did that to y'all. I put that in there. And then I pulled a Sarah McLean. I gave you the lore. I gave you like that foo prologue of the lore of the Gannibals. They
Mhm.
let me have so much fun with these romances. I just love them. But yeah, Gambling Sunset. I think it's a fun book. Um, on a serious note, we discuss chronic illness, and that people need love and still can be chronically ill. And it gives you questions about what happy forever really means, or if it's happy for now, or those kind of things, which
Mhm.
are deeper questions that are threaded throughout the series. But it's a fun series. I think people will like it, and I had a blast writing it. It comes out once again on the 21st. It is available at all your retailers. So please get it, spread the word.
Mhm.
It's amazing fun.
Yeah, get it on like write the days and write the review immediately, then gets a bestseller status and more reviews on the book.
Definitely, definitely, definitely.
Yep. Awesome.
All right, hello, I'm back on camera.
Yay!
Yay, it is 6:30, so we are out of time. But I thank you both for being here with us tonight. It was a wonderful conversation. And again, it'll be on YouTube as soon as I can get it edited and put up there.
Yep. Alina, you were amazing. And thank
Thank
you,
you.
Galena Library, for
Yeah.
inviting me. This has been a great fun.
Yeah, thank you, Galina
Of
Library.
course.
I'll send you the recipe. Work hard on it.
Please do. Man, I'm jealous. Man, I'm jealous.
Yeah, well, you'll see it's easy. It's like a no bake thing.
The
Yeah.
recipe was almost that, but then the biscuit joke just kept going. So I was like, no, y'all are gonna kill me if I don't put the ginger biscuit recipe in there.
Have to make that one next time.
All right. Well, again, thank you both and have a good night.
Good night.